I wonder, have you ever known someone who just turned away from God or resisted God over and over again, maybe refused to believe in God, and it just destroyed their life? Well, sadly, the book of Second Kings is the historically accurate, true story of God's people turning away from Him. We've been looking book by book. We're going through the Bible. We started in Genesis, and we saw God's creation. We saw His promise to Abraham. We saw Him lead God's people through the desert through Moses. We saw Joshua go into the promised land. And then as God's people inhabit the promised land, we saw an era of the judges and how God led through judges and through prophets. We saw in 1 Samuel that God's people demanded an earthly king, even though God alone wanted to be their king. In 1 Samuel, we see God give them a king, and we see in 1 and 2 Samuel and in 1 Kings the good early kings, David and Solomon, but third generation, that last king after David, there was one before David, Saul, but anyhow, that generation turns evil. And in prosperity and blessing, God's people turn away from Him, which, just my opinion, but that's largely been the story of America. If you were to rewind 100 years and look at an average Sunday, 95% of Americans were in a church on Sunday hearing the Bible preached. They didn't have running water or electricity at all their houses, but they had the Bible, and though they were imperfect, and though there were a lot of broken problems in the country, people were seeking the Bible, and that's what kept making the country better. Now in prosperity and wealth, as ignorant beneficiaries of all the believers who've gone before us, many are turning away from Christ, turning to money and wealth and pleasure instead, and it's just history repeating itself.